if you have been working really hard, trying to wholesale real estate, trying to flip houses, trying to buy rental property, and you just aren't getting anywhere, or maybe if you've had a little bit of success, close a couple of deals, and you still find yourself in the rat race, this video is for you. Because the truth of the matter is, that's not all you need to know. I'm gonna share with you why your first deal will not make you wealthy. The first deal can change your life. However, it's not enough to change your financial future. And that's because money made isn't wealth, a deal is not a system, and income isn't freedom. You see, there's a lot more that goes into becoming wealthy, becoming financially free than just closing your first deal. I know this is true firsthand because I was that person who closed their first deal and many deals after that, and ended up finding out and discovering that it wasn't enough. My first deal, I remember it like it was yesterday. It's about 10 years ago now, but I remember in just 90 days, I closed my first real estate wholesale deal and made $31,125.97. And in that day in my life, I thought my life was going to change forever. I thought I was going to be rich. I thought I had made it. Over the course of my career in business at wholesaling real estate, I had the opportunity of making hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm so grateful for that. But I also learned a major lesson in the process that it's not about money. There's no dollar amount that you'll ever make that will guarantee you financial freedom, wealth, and riches. As a matter of fact, it's not about a certain dollar. It's not about making your first million. It's not about making six figures. It's about stewardship. This is what I had to learn the hard way. And this is what we're going to dive into today. And I'm hoping that you get the lesson early on so that way the path is much, much more easier for you. The reality is, the path of entrepreneurship is not supposed to be hard. I've discovered after 10 years of being an entrepreneur that 95% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. I was fortunate enough to go beyond 5 years. But one of the things that I realized is that the number one reason why most businesses go out of business is because of the lack of funding. They end up running out of money, right? So now the question comes, well, how could a business that is in business, that's making money, how could they run out of money? Well, if you lack stewardship in your business, it's easy to mess things up. All it takes in business is one bad investment. All it takes is to put all your eggs in one basket and hope it's going to work out for you. I've had my fair share of those experiences. I had to learn the hard way. But the one thing I want to make sure that you understand from this video is how important stewardship is, right? So if you think about it this way, the reason why this is so important is because at the end of the day, regardless of how much money you make, the reality is not about how much money you make, but it's about how much money you keep. If you make $100,000, but then spend $80,000 to make the $100,000, you only got $20,000. If you make $100,000, but you spend $120,000 running your business, you're upside down and you're living. I mean, you owe money, right? Maybe you put it all in debt. If you make $100,000, but you spend $100,000, I mean, you're living paycheck to paycheck. What's the difference between working at 9 to 5? And I want to say this one thing real quick about 9 to 5 employees, right? Most of the people who are probably getting into entrepreneurship are 9 to 5 employees. That could be you right now in this case. And I want to let you know right now that you have something that is actually a benefit to you if you know how to use it right. If you're someone right now who's working at 9 to 5 and you may be tired of that 9 to 5. You may be ready to get out of that 9 to 5. You want financial independence, financial freedom, so that way you can live life on your terms. I'm here to tell you right now that it is, first of all, 100% possible for you to do that. But second of all, it's important for you to know and understand what role your current job plays in your path to achieving that financial freedom. When I got started in business, I got started from a place where I wasn't working a job. See, I didn't have a 9 to 5 I was working at the time when I was building my real estate business. And on one hand, it was awesome because I got to make my own schedule. I got to live life how I wanted to. I got to get up when I wanted to. I got to go to sleep when I wanted to, yada, yada, yada. It was wonderful to have that freedom. But on the other hand, I also saw that every time I made money in my real estate business, I had to use that money to pay my bills, and I had to use that money to run my business, and I had to use that money to expand my business. And without the proper financial education at that time in my life, it was very difficult to get off the ground. Even though I was making $30,000 checks, $20,000 checks, multiple six figures a year, it was very difficult for me to really get that expansion that I needed to really get further ahead. And so what I'm sharing with you right now, why is this important for you? Because if you're someone right now who's working a 9 to 5, don't look at that as the worst thing on the planet. Because if you're in a situation where that 9 to 5 actually covers your bills and gives you some margin to play with, now you've got someone that you can invest into business, right? From your paycheck, right? And then on top of that, you can now use that money from your paycheck to invest in your business. But now when your business makes money, you get to use 100% of that money on your business, and, okay, on investing. It means that instead of you making, for instance, let's say you make a wholesale deal, right? And that wholesale deal is $10,000. It's the average value of a wholesale deal. Let's say you make $10,000 right now. That 10 grand is not enough for most people. In most people's cases, it's probably not enough for you to be able to pay your bills, right? And live off of that $10,000 by itself. If you're still employed, okay, and you make that $10,000, you're able to now take that whole $10,000 and put it wherever you need it to go to help you push your wealth forward, okay? Because at the end of the day, your 9 to 5 is taking care of your needs. Now, there are some people right now listening to me, and this could be you, and you're in a situation where your 9 to 5 is not enough, right? What you make is not enough for you to be able to cover all your bills, okay? And be able to invest into business. Maybe you're in that situation right now where you're required in your current situation to work 2 jobs in order for you to make ends meet and live check to check. Well, if this is your situation right now, I encourage you, I recommend, and by the way, I'm not giving any investment advice. I'm just the person who has a lot of experience as an entrepreneur who had a lot of mistakes and who had a lot of wins. And I'm just sharing with you what I've learned and what I've discovered and what I think. And if you agree with what I think, talk to a financial advisor, right? If you want to have that extra a sense of certainty there. But I mean, a lot of what I'm talking about is honestly really common sense. Like when you think about it, you're gonna be like, okay, man, I might not have thought about that, but it makes a lot of sense and I can agree with it. What I'm saying right now is this. If you're in that situation and you need a way out, the number one thing you need to understand, right, is checks and balances. If you've ever read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and if you haven't read the book, I encourage you to read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because in that book, Robert T. Kiyosaki talks about checks and balances. This is the thing that they never taught us in school. This is why so many people struggle financially, because it's not about the amount of money you make, it's about the amount of money you keep. It's not about making $1 million a year or $100,000 a year. It's about how much of that money you actually get to keep after everything is accounted for, your bills, your taxes, right? And what's left over. If you're that person who doesn't have anything left over, it's because your checks and balances are off. Simply put, assets and liabilities, okay? An asset is anything that brings you money, okay? And a liability is anything that takes money away from you. When you sit down and you set a budget, I don't like really using the word budget. We have what's called a family financial plan, right? So in my household, we have a financial plan, okay? So when I look at my financial plan, I'm taking a look at all of my liabilities, okay? So what it costs for me to live, all my expenses, debt, whatever I'm paying for, right? And then I'm looking at my assets, all my income. No matter where it comes from, if it's coming to me, it's an asset. So in your case, if you're working right now, your employer, your job is an asset for you, right? So where the struggle is coming from is it's that checks and balances. You're making $5,000 a month, but you're living on $5,000 a month. You're gonna feel like you have a noose to your neck. But on the other hand, if you're making $5,000 a month and you're only living off of $3,000 a month, you're gonna feel like you can do a whole lot, right? And so that's what I mean. You have to first off look at where your money is. What is the story that your bank account is saying right now about your life? What is the story that your checks and balances, your financial plan is currently saying about your life? And understand that you have the power to change that story at any time. And all it's going to take is some changes, some shifts. And there's two ways to improve your financial situation. Understand that the goal is to create margin. So the first way to do that would be to decrease your expenses. Are you paying too much rent? Or do you have an expensive car note that you could possibly get out from under? Are there monthly subscriptions that you're paying for that you don't use or need? And then the other thing is increasing your income. If I was working 2 jobs, I would look for a way for me to make what I'm making from 2 jobs from 1 job. What does that mean? I need to find a better 1 job that I can do for 40 hours a week that pays me way more money so that I only need to work 1 job in order to make the paycheck of 2 jobs. That's number 1. And then I would need to make sure that my job pays me enough money to cover all my expenses and leave me room for margin. It's that margin I'm going to use in order for me to be able to invest in my business, invest into buying assets, whatever I need to improve my financial situation. So if you're someone right now who's in that situation, the truth of the matter is, it's not going to get any easier. Life is hard. Life is hard. Okay? Life is hard. It's not going to get any easier. But one thing that will always stand true, at the end of the day, improving life is hard. Living in a life that needs improvement is hard. So choose your hard. Which one is it going to be? Are you going to work through the hard of improving it? So if that means that you've got to get some type of degree, you got to get some type of trade, you have to figure something else out that you can do. Maybe you want to wholesale real estate and I can help you with that. Whatever it looks like, you have to figure out something that you can do to improve your financial situation. Is that getting a raise at your current job? You have to do that first. That is number 1. You've got to put yourself in a situation financially where you have the room to be able to make bigger and better decisions. Bigger and take advantage of bigger and better opportunities. I wanted you just to understand in this video why it's not about how much money you make, but about how much money you keep. Because at the end of the day, you could be that person right now. Maybe you are that person right now who's closing real estate deals, actually making 10 grand here, 20 grand there, and you're struggling still financially, or you're getting burnt out because you're just not getting to where you need to go. You're making the money, and your situation is just, you're on this hamster wheel. You need to start doing checks and balances, both personally and in your business. Your business should have checks and balances too. You should have a financial plan for your business, right? This is one of the things that I struggled with early on. So I ended up spending a lot of money that I didn't have to spend willy-nilly in my business that ended up actually holding me back rather than propelling me forward. I hope that this video has been very valuable to you. Type in the comments, what's one thing that you took away from this video? What's the biggest challenge right now you're having financially in your personal life or in your business? What's the one thing that you're struggling with the most? And what are some ways right now that you're thinking to improve your financial situation? What are some things that you've tried? Share it in the comments. I'd love to hear your situation right now. Would love to hear the things that you're dealing with. Would love to hear the things that you've tried. And I hope that this video has been valuable to you. And I will see you on the next video where we'll dive even deeper into topics like this. Because the reality is that there is a reason why over 80% of the entire world lives in poverty. There's a reason why here in America, it's the 10% that are not living in poverty. And that reason is all because of financial literacy. There's a reason why some people, they win the lottery and win all these millions and go broke. There's a reason why some people become successful financially, right? They come across all this money, whether that's through entertainment or some other type of means through business, and they end up losing it all later on because they don't have the proper financial foundation. So if this video has blessed you, do me a favor, leave a like, a share, and a subscribe, and comment below. What did you get the most out of this video? And I'll see you on the next episode.